Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Time for another episode of Debunking the BBC. Correcting without writing, if you will. So, Million Mega March. Pro-Trump protesters hold rallies as tensions grow. Yes, of course they're growing. Essentially because lawsuits are being filed, evidence is being compiled, it's being presented, and it rattles on to say, well, hey, here's over 200 pages of sworn affidavits showing what people have seen, and they've signed it and they've put it forward, and this is the same as being under oath in court. That is to say that if people have lied, it's perjury, and it's between a 5 and 15 year felony prison sentence for doing so. That's what it means. So it's not as in just saying, yeah, I saw something, yeah, that's not good, and it's like a rumor. No. If it's investigated and they find to have made a falsified statement, then they are a felon, which means they don't have as many rights as regular civilians, of course, and they go to prison for at least 5 years. That's what it means. So it's quite serious to have so many sworn affidavits. Of course, you've got statistical analysis, which there's a fantastic video that I'll link in the description if you wish to watch, showing just the process of electronic voting machines from Dibloid, however you pronounce that, used by the Dominion voting systems as well, that since 2001 they saw that there was software put into it in order to weight some votes a certain way and to retract votes another certain way. They did it based on race, for example, so they would racially weight votes so that a black person's vote was worth like 1.3 votes, whereas a white person's was worth 0.7, that kind of thing. And they've also seen that in the more Republican precincts within the counties, Donald Trump is apparently significantly less popular. So this is shown by comparing straight Republican tickets, which is to say, just vote Republican all the way down, and then splitting it up to vote individually. And what they've seen is that, it seems, the higher the proportion of Republicans, the less popular Trump is. But it follows a linear line, which is almost impossible without some sort of algorithm going on there. And of course, word got caught out early in Michigan, I believe, but it could be Wisconsin, that they thought, hang on, this seems a bit weird with 7,000 votes in this precinct. Let's double check this. So they did and went, yeah, it was wrong, so we've rectified it. And then the statistical anomaly disappeared. But of course, this is used in 47 states. And when it comes down to, maybe they're only flipping a few percentage points of the vote, whereas, of course, Biden has won by millions of votes. Well, that's not quite how the Electoral College works, in which case we're a little bit concerned. And, of course, other statistical anomalies, which are supposed to be debunked by seeing Biden's vote jump up dramatically and then say, oh, yeah, that's been debunked because that was a miscalculation. And from what we've seen afterwards, they recounted the amount of votes had, because it was like they put an extra zero on the end by accident. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So on this graph, we see Biden's votes go up to Trump's 0 votes and then come back down, yeah? No, they don't come back down. So then what are you talking about? But despite all this, of course, we've seen thousands, at least, of supporters of President Donald Trump rallying in Washington, D.C. to back his very much substantiated claims of electoral fraud in the US election. Difference between voter fraud and electoral fraud is voter fraud is from the voters and the electoral fraud is from the people making it happen higher up. So the accusations have predominantly been about electoral fraud, not the voters, but the people running the elections. That's the difference. And you want photos? Okay, let's swap over to the heavy instead to see how many people are at the Million Mega March in photos. Bear in mind, this is from the heavy, of course. But we can also compare this. So we see Freedom Plaza, for example. More photos, the one that the BBC is using. Even more. And just to compare it as well to the Women's March 4 years ago as well, and ignoring the misleading ones that were taken a couple of hours beforehand. So we got the Women's March in 2017, 3 years ago, nearly 4, which seems to be more sizable from the photos here as well, as you can see here. And, of course, for their March for Our Lives, the one where they want to remove the human right to be able to defend yourself, where they had children indoctrinated there in order to push an agenda in comparison. Just to try and get an estimate of a number, but no numbers are officially put out and haven't been for about 25 years now, due to the Million Man March and them saying 400,000 people attended. Okay, no, it's clearly a million, clues in the name. So they've stopped with their official estimates. But getting back to the BBC, of course. Far-right and anti-government groups, including the Proud Boys, who are not far-right at all, it's basically just a joke organisation, but their main thing is to prevent rioting and looting from domestic terrorist groups like Antifa. Oath Keepers, which are staunch constitutionalists, so much so that the founder said, hey, if we had more accountability at every level of not only the judicial system, but also the police and the army, then somebody like Adolf Hitler could never have got to power, because people wouldn't have followed the orders. So people need to be aware of what they're doing in order to know if they wish to continue with it or not. And QAnon saying there seem to be quite a few people involved in paedophilia in Hollywood and the government, as Epstein kind of proved. But apparently they're far-right and anti-government. But I suppose, for the BBC, if you're at all centrist and want a smaller government so that people have more freedom, then you're far-right and anti-government. They're not putting a name to the author who wrote the story, and I'm not surprised. They'd indicated they would attend amid tensions over the result. Well, there isn't a result yet, that's the thing. Earlier protesters swarmed the presidential motorcade as Trump drove past on his way to his golf course. He's chilling. Joe Biden did not win the 3rd of November election. That is a blatant lie. Good job, BBC. Well done. The Associated Press called it. That is to say, here is what we think at the moment, but it is not won until it goes through the whole system and the actual election takes place on the 20th of January, when the Electoral College gets together and they allocate their votes that way. The election for the United States President does not happen until the 20th of January. There was no 3rd of November election. You're lying, BBC. Why do you not do research? On Saturday, Joe Biden apparently solidified his victory with a projected win in the state of Georgia, making him the first Democratic candidate to take the state since 1992, even within their own bloody sentence. So he had a projected win, and he's the first Democratic candidate to take the Senate, to take the state, definitely. Do you not see your own contradictions there? They say he now has 306 votes in the Electoral College, the system the US uses to choose its president, which far exceeds the 270 threshold to win. Tempted to give that to them out of pity. However, Trump has so far refused to concede, and that is why we knew the winner earlier in previous years, that one side would choose to concede, and therefore, of course, they drop out and go, well, cool, I concede. All yours, go ahead. And that hasn't happened yet. Of course, it took quite a few weeks, just in the year 2000, between Bush and Gore, which we're going to get to. Quite an interesting revelation on there. That only came down to just a few hundred votes in Florida, of course. And since then, Florida seems to have tightened up their voting system, and lo and behold, it's gone to Trump twice in a row. If only other states could do that. So he's launched a flurry of legal challenges in key states, and made very much substantiated allegations of widespread electoral fraud. And well done, you use electoral fraud here, but not earlier. Do you not know the difference? But his efforts have so far been unsuccessful. Or have they? Have they? What if it's lawfare instead? What if he's just tying up the courts so it eventually goes to the Supreme Court? Why would that matter? Well, if we think back to the Bush and Gore race from 2000, that came to razor-thin margins in Florida, and the two lawyers making the case for Bush were Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh. What a coincidence that they now sit on the High Court. So it's up to you. If you want to think Trump's either doing 4D chess, knowing what's going to happen, and therefore appointing Supreme Court justices who helped Republicans previously when it came to Democrats rigging the election, like they have overtly done for JFK in 60. And that is an obvious fact. I mean, look at Academic Agent Stream if you want. I'll link that down below as well if you want to go into more detail down there. But it's known, it's a fact, the Democrats have purposefully rigged it before in order to steal elections. This is not a conspiracy theory or a baseless accusation. This is a documented fact. They've done it before. Could they do it again? 60 years on? And maybe in the intervening time? It's not a known fact that has happened in the intervening time. But could it? Yeah, it definitely could. It's not as if they've stopped. So yeah, they sit on the High Court. Very interesting. Or you could, of course, say that it's Tim Pool's idea that Donald Trump keeps slipping on banana peels and doing backflips. So, what's the plan for the pro-Trump rally? Well, it's essentially just to say, stop the steal. They're stealing the election, and we want to make our voices heard. Just to say that the energy is still here. We got to fight it until the end, and make sure that Trump is aware that we're not happy for him to concede. Instead, we do want him to fight it till the end, which is what he has said that he will do, and let's hope that he bloody well does so. And if you think that, it's not good that he's only challenging the states where he lost and not where he won, so well, of course you would. That's human nature, and definitely true for a multi-billionaire businessman. Of course they're going to take any advantage they can get and just ignore the disadvantages. No doubt about it. Some left-wing groups are planning counter-demonstrations. What a surprise. But what is lovely is that they love to go against them and say that, hey, you can't be doing this because this is basically just a super spreader event, if you will. And, this is terrible for COVID. Of course, when it came to BBC reporting on victory parades for the initial Biden result, the projected wins, it's like, yeah, look, on people celebrating, isn't this lovely? Good. And one, they just used videos and articles, and one said they were mainly using masks. I mean, yes, of course, when you got places like New York where you can only gather a maximum of 50 people, even outside, even with masks, it doesn't really matter. When we know the ineffectiveness of masks, especially when in such close contact with so many different people, and the ineffectiveness of them simply because of how people use them, then it doesn't matter because they're on our side. Yeah, BBC, you not only are you picking a political side, clearly very much so left, but you're also interfering with foreign elections. Why on earth is this state-mandated funding? How can a so-called right-wing government of the Conservatives allow this to happen? But they do, and then just to go on to a video that's coming next about the UK to ban new petrol and diesel cars from 2030, this isn't so much from a conservative viewpoint at all, is it? No, not at all. And then the BBC wants to say, a growing sense of a fight losing its energy. So, hang on, a fight losing its energy? Didn't you say that Biden had already won? Then there isn't a fight, surely, because Biden's already won. Oh, Biden hasn't won. So when you said he won the election earlier, you knew you were lying. What are we going to do about that then? And instead, they would keep referring to him as President-elect Joe Biden, even though that is also incorrect. He is not President-elect because Donald Trump has not conceded, in which case he is not. If Joe Biden were to concede, then, you still got the President Trump, but essentially the President-elect, but it wouldn't make sense because he's actually president. But when Hillary Clinton conceded last time, of course, then Donald Trump became President-elect, but not before, only after. But apparently they just seem unaware of this fact when it works for them. So trying to keep clean language here, but I'm sure we all know how I'm feeling here. So if there was a fight, Joe Biden is not president-elect. Not at all. If there wasn't a fight, then what are you on about? I thought he definitely won. Then why are you saying that he hasn't? But anyway, that's about it. Otherwise, it's just going to be rehashing old stuff, and then they're going to try and say, "Oh, Trump has no evidence at all." And just to wrap up, there's a difference between evidence and proof, and there are even different types of evidence, like circumstantial, which is actually allowed in civil proceedings, as it happens. But evidence is to say, here's something that I noticed that is relevant to the case going on, whereas proof is there's no arguing with it. That's the difference. So what he's put forward, like sworn affidavits, eyewitness testimonies, that is evidence. That is evidence. So when they keep saying, oh, there's no evidence at all that's bullshit. That is utter bullshit. And also when it comes to recounts of votes, that can be done if they're within a percentage point of each other. So when they're saying, oh, it's okay because some of them are close enough but others aren't. So no, that's bullshit. If there was in a percentage point, then they can be recounted. And if Trump's going to hold this up until December 14th, then of course it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and we all know how that's going to side. In which case he's going to win on a legal technicality because the election was not free and fair. And of course, as a final sign-off, compared to previous years, mail-in ballots have been rejected 30 times less than previously. Yep, as in previously, when there were, of course, more stricter criteria, and you had to request them as an absentee ballot, instead of unrequested mass mailing. What a coincidence. What a wonderful coincidence. But this will all come out in the end. I'm still hanging strong. As long as Trump knows that he's got tens of millions of people supporting him, if not hundreds worldwide, then he knows to keep going. Because, hey, if he falters and Biden gets in, and of course the Conservatives are fucking up their mandate in the UK, then where is there to turn? It's just going to be China. So let's all speak Chinese and hold on to your organs. As always, let me know down below what you guys think. Do you think, no, it's too little too late now, he's lost, and he should just plan for the next one, or maybe just stay on Twitter and just rip into Biden as much as possible? I'm intrigued to know what you guys have to say, or if you've actually got a bet on Trump, or if you have put one on recently through Betfair Exchange. Let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you have to say. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time, have a good one.